Hello everybody, it's Calxiyn here. If you guys enjoyed this video, remember that you guys should be patrons over on Patreon or join our Discord server. Our Patreon is actually now at our $250 goal, which is pretty nice. And so that means that we will be getting cosplay stuff done for you guys soon, because that was the goal for that one. Hunter's just like, yikes. I really want to cosplay as Weiss.
You can absolutely cosplay as Weiss. It's just that I don't want to cosplay as Weiss.
We should do like that. We should do the same character but gender bent.
So
you would be like
boy
Weiss, and I would be girl
What's the
Weiss.
Male equivalent of a petticoat? I'm curious.
What do you mean, for the skirt?
No, petticoat, her jacket.
Anyways. Oh, the jacket. Okay, well, I don't know. You could still wear the same jacket. Why not? It could just be like a boy jacket.
Other than it's, you know.
I don't know anything about boys' clothes. Don't come at me.
I feel like I don't know why this came in my mind, but I imagine Weiss just wearing like a schnee tracksuit.
Okay. Anyways, so we're talking about Weiss's character arc today.
Are we now? Okay.
Yes. Mostly like about this volume changes, I suppose, but like we'll start from the previous one. So, like, let's start first. Like, we all know that Weiss was a bitch once. You know what I mean? Once. We all know that she was a little, you know, a little bitchy, because she was like, Ruby's like the captain of Team Ruby, and I want to be the leader, because I'm older and I'm strong. Or whatever she said.
That's precisely what she said.
That's basically what she said. And then Port was just like, listen, like, your skills are only matched by your bad fucking attitude, grow the fuck up. And that's just kind of what happened. And so, like, for the rest of the series, like, you kind of see, like, little changes in Weiss. Like, first she's more open to Ruby being the leader, and then after that, you know, like, the entire Blake stuff happens, and she says that she's had a lot of time to think about this, and she thinks that she doesn't care, about whether or not Blake is a faunist or what happened in the past, and she's very much putting the past, behind her, and I feel like that really, like, sort of fits in, with her later songs and everything, because it's, mostly about putting, you know, later in the series, like, Life is Mine is sort of about her saying that she is going to forget about basically everything that Jacques ever told her and just be her own person and move on from that. And, like, even though that Jacques said that she was worthless and all this stuff, like, she's not going to listen to that anymore, obviously. So I feel like her attitude with Blake is kind of reflected in the same thing. It's forgetting about the past and moving forward in the present time. Then Volume 2 happens, and Weiss is pretty chill, you know what I mean? Like, she's a little bitchy sometimes, but she's not that bitchy, you know what I mean? She says, you know, to Oobleck that she wants to uphold her family legacy, and that's why she wants to be a huntress, and that's when you sort of get the idea that, like, something is going on at Schnee Dust Company, you know what I mean? And so, obviously, what she said to Port then goes back to what we see in Volume 4 and how her father is, I don't know if this is the right, like, term for this. I don't want to say he's cuckolding the company, because I don't think that's correct.
No, what do you think that word means,
I know what
Cal?
It means. I'm just saying.
Are you positive?
I do. I'm just.
Like, because if you did know.
No.
That
you
use
don't
of
understand.
That word
That's
would be
not
confusing.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying that he's basically, like, holding the company by the balls is what I mean.
That's not what
I know. It's two different. I understand.
Then why use it other than to make me have to sit you down and say, okay.
No. I know what it means, but I meant.
So apparently your favorite genre of pornography is in fact not.
No. I was trying to find the right term, but I couldn't, and so I was going through.
On cuckold. Okay,
I was going through a couple, you know what I mean?
Sure,
but basically, I mean that Jacques is kind of running the family name into the ground, even though he's not originally part of the family.
He's certainly a MILF. I'm using that correctly, of course, yes?
Oh my god, stop it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just, you know, I like to be accurate.
I like to go through, like, words, so people have a wide array of understanding of what I'm trying to say.
Are you positive?
Yes.
Because
anyway.
If anything, the introduction of that word and my demanding that we focus on it for so long has only further weakened whatever point you initially had.
Anyway,
no, please continue.
At that point in the show, we kind of understand that something's wrong with Schnee Dust Company, because not that upholding her family legacy is weird or anything, but, like, the way that she says it to Oobleck sounds like it's almost, I don't want to say it's in desperation, but it almost sounds like if I don't uphold my legacy, then no one's gonna uphold the legacy, you know what I mean?
Like, do you think that in your own family, or do
that
you have
I am the legacy
to uphold?
No, I mean, no, not
Because
really.
like you can't cook for shit, so the Italian food is entirely lost on you.
What does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, that's part of the
not
legacy.
really. Like, a legacy is like your work and stuff.
Or just like, you know, I mean, a family legacy, because it's not like you have a massive family business.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that even the family legacy doesn't really revolve around cooking. Like, okay, so you guys may not know this, but every year my grandfather builds a nativity scene for Christmas.
Do you think you're gonna do
That's
that?
what I'm talking about in terms of legacy stuff.
Do you imagine you doing that?
I imagine you doing that.
Oh, well,
I mean, I imagine me assisting you.
I'm not gonna be in your life for that long. Secondly,
whoa, Jesus, okay.
Secondly,
oh God.
I am just a person that is stuck in a lesbian's basement doing RWBY videos.
Oh,
I am
man.
not.
I feel very dragged right now.
I am.
That's not very nice.
Anyways, so no, I won't be doing that, and I don't believe you will be either.
What do you mean?
I can't imagine.
We have to have a talk after this video.
I can't imagine you. Why do you think I just show up to your house like I'm here for the... Anyway, please continue.
Okay, anyway, so Weiss has a legacy to uphold.
Yes. Unlike us.
I think my legacy is more going to school, because even though my mom went to university, on my dad's side, like, you know, he didn't. I don't think his parents did either. I don't think my dad graduated high school. And that's my last name right now. I'm kind of thinking about changing it back to my mom's last name, so I don't have to deal with
I mean, if
some of the association.
If you're gonna change it back to your mom's, might as well just change it to anything. Like, you can be, I don't know, Calxiyn Dragonmeister or something. You know, you can do whatever you want. Be creative.
Anyway, so in terms of legacy, I feel like that's kind of my thing right now. But at the same time, I feel like for me, I'm probably not going to have kids. So the legacy, it's about building my own personal legacy instead of upholding a family legacy. And I think that actually, you know, kind of goes back to some of the other characters, like building up their own legacy instead of following their parents, but we'll talk about that in a different video, so it's fine. Like Jean, he's kind of upholding the family legacy because his grandfather fought in the war, but to an extent he's also building his own legacy as a warrior, right? Yeah? Alright. But Weiss is choosing to uphold her family name, while I am choosing to find out a way to discard it as soon as I can. Anyway, yeah, so in terms of that, like, we kind of see that interaction. We also see Weiss going after things that, you know, she wants in her life. She wants to fuck Neptune, and so, she decides...
And possibly Yang. Throwing that one
Okay,
out there.
we'll talk about that later. Like, she wants to... I'll say she wants to go to the dance. She wants to go to the dance with Neptune.
I would dance with many people. I would
I
not
know,
have
I know.
sex
I was just trying to, like, be hip with the kid. Like, I was trying to be... You know how I am. I was just short-forming it. What are you doing this to me for? Anyways, so she wants to dance with Neptune.
Syllables, but I digress.
Well, dance with Neptune and then fuck Neptune is shorter, because you have the width. You don't say fuck with Neptune.
That would imply something entirely
exactly,
different.
That's what I'm telling you. Anyways, so in terms of dancing with Neptune, like, she's going after something that she wants. She wants to dance with this boy. And
you say
so,
boy with such distaste.
Boy, and so, she, you know, she goes after that, and she's finally kind of giving into her own wants and needs, and that also goes back to sort of volume...
Needs, you say. I'm sorry.
Okay. Her wants and whatever, and that kind of goes back to her father again, like, her father, not... How am I gonna say this? Like, her father not letting her go after her own desire, and instead forcing, a different life on her. Yeah?
Sure.
And then, you get to Volume 3. To be honest, I don't remember Volume 3 that well.
We should
but I remember some key points. So, Weiss's credit card gets denied because she's not talking to her father. So that's our second hint that something's wrong. Winter always comes up and tries to teach her how to use her glyphs. And so you kind of get the idea that Winter is, like, obviously she's very skilled and very knowledgeable and everything, but she's still very distant from Weiss, and she's still... I don't want to say that Winter is like Jacques exactly, but she also has an idea for how Weiss should kind of live her life. It's just a more lenient one. You know what I mean? And I think in any family you're gonna get pressures like that. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm sure, Hunter, like, your aunts and stuff had expectations for, like, when you wanted to go to school or whatever.
What?
to go to university.
My aunts don't give a shit.
No, your aunts don't give a shit?
No.
Okay, this may just be an Italian thing, but when I was choosing universities and stuff, my aunts were very, let's just call them involved. They were, and like,
my family's
they,
full
I don't want to say they
and
forced me
spin-outs.
to choose my major or anything, but I have one of my aunts was very judgmental when I said that I wanted to do anything remotely close to artistic stuff,
Ooh.
like theater. Which one do you think I only have two? It's not
your
that
aunt.
hard, yeah, and
You
so...
have 3 that I can think of.
3 aunts?
Yes.
No, I don't.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Your brother's wife, or your uncle's wife, is an aunt.
Oh, well, she's not related, so she
Oh.
doesn't care.
Okay, never mind.
I'm talking
So
about
apparently-
directly related.
Apparently you have such issue with your aunts that one gets written out of the book,
No,
but I digress.
It's not like that. It's like she's not related to us. And okay, so
Okay, alright,
this is
I'm
a
gonna
good time
tell-
to bring up that Jock is not a Schnee. So he's not. I mean, obviously he's her dad. There's a blood relation.
Sorry, a bread
but
relation?
A blood relation. But Weiss like explicitly says that you're not a part of this family. So Weiss kind of chews him out a little bit. You know what I mean? And so it happens. Anyways, so kind of what I was like. I don't know. Like this is why I feel such a personal connection to Weiss, because I feel like we share a lot of things. Like I feel like I don't share everything with Weiss necessarily. Like she's not the strongest like character that has most of my attributes, but like the family stuff I think we can all understand. So like my aunts had like some expectations for me when I was choosing schools and when I was choosing majors. And classes and everything like that. Like, you know, don't go into theater or don't go into art, like stuff like that. That was only one of my aunts. My other aunt is an art teacher. So she did not say do not go into art.
Presumably it would be like, the argument would be like, don't go into arts, there's no job in it, and then the other one would be like, well.
Yeah, you know, it happens. Family dinner stuff, you know. Christmas talks, right?
Which,
and then you obviously also have the families, like a lot of kids relate to this, like they'll have their aunts asking where's their boyfriend, why don't they have a boyfriend, when are you gonna bring a girl home, where's your girlfriend, like Christmas dinner stuff.
There's a lot of like...
But we don't really see Jacques care about hooking Weiss up, so we're not really gonna touch on that any longer, but anyway.
Remember when we I don't know if I remember, if I thought Marigold, or whatever,
Henry?
If he would ever be important.
Maybe.
I guess he never really
day.
became important.
No.
I don't know.
Anyways,
Poor guy.
so back to Weiss. So Winter kind of gives off this vibe of, yes, she wants to help her sister, but at the same time, she does have expectations for her sister. She counts 4 misses or whatever, but Weiss points out that they still won the fight, and in the end of the day, that's kind of the most important thing sometimes, you know? But I digress. So you kind of see her, I don't want to say she's getting bullied in Volume 3, but we definitely see her in a position where we've never seen her before. We see that she's very excited to have her sister around, and her sister is kind of shutting her down, and that's basically, you know, what Weiss did to RWBY, and so you kind of see that comparison, that Winter is cold to Weiss like Ruby's, or like Weiss is cold to RWBY, etc., etc. And so then you kind of get to the tournament and all that stuff, and Weiss like straight up sacrificing herself for Yang. It doesn't work out that well, but they still won, so it's fine, right? They still won against Flit in the other one. And so you kind of see that, like, Weiss is kind of turning into a very, I don't want to say that was necessarily selfless, because of course, like, Weiss needed to win for herself as well, but you kind of see her in a position where she's like, okay, I'll take one for the team this time instead of Yang. You understand what I mean? Because she could have said, well, Yang could sacrifice herself,
Yang
you know what I mean?
take a few for the team.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're taking hits for each other, and that's kind of the point where they're at right now. And then of course you have the finale, where you kind of see this contrast back to Volume 1, where Ruby's kind of explaining to Weiss the plan to run up the building and everything, and like Weiss is like, yeah, I trust you, like I know that you know what you're doing and all that, right? And so when you think about it that way, you really see, I suppose, that what am I trying to say? Like, that we've come full circle at this point. That at first Weiss thought that Ruby's original plan to run up the wall and kill the Nevermore and all that was crazy. But now, you know, you get to Volume 3 and it's not crazy anymore, you know what I mean? That she finally is able to kind of trust RWBY. But then, of course, like, she gets taken back, she goes to her dad's, we kind of know how all of that goes, and she goes back into a place of isolation, which is a path of isolation, you know what I mean? We talk about, that's one of the songs that are in the Weiss trailer and everything. you kind of see what's going on. So her father is forcing her to sing, and of course she says yes anyway, and it is for charity, so I think that, you know, Weiss was up for it, because, you know, she does want to help Beacon and whatever else. But then, you know, when she kind of goes against that woman that was kind of, I don't know, like criticizing, almost like criticizing Vale and all of that. Like, her father obviously doesn't approve of that, but, you know, Ironwood comes and he's like, yeah, Weiss is the only sane one here, bitch. Like, you know what I mean? Like, something like that, right?
I don't remember him saying bitch.
Okay, and that's when she does her first summon. Like, you see a lot of growth as a character, and her having to deal with Whitley. Like, because her father just straight up says, if you don't do what I say, I'm gonna tell everyone that you went crazy, and gonna keep you in this house, like, for as long as you live. And then Weiss is just like, okay, bitch, you try. And you kind of see her training and see her determination to escape again. And that it's one of those cases where I don't want to... Hunter really likes Tangled, so I'll put in a Tangled reference here.
You act like Tangled's like my favorite movie.
Is it your favorite Disney movie?
No, I just wanted to watch it with you that one time.
Oh, I thought you really liked it. Anyways, sorry, I'll continue. So in Tangled, Rapunzel says that, like, she'll never stop running away from Gothel, and that's who's kind of kidnapped her, and that's what it kind of reminds me of. That Weiss will never, Weiss will never stop running, sort of thing, and you see that resolve in her. And so obviously she escapes. And here's another character building moment I feel for Weiss's arc here, is that when she asks the pilot, what about the other passengers, and like, we can't, like, why aren't we going to save the other passengers? Like, she's risking her life now, not for her teammates, but to uphold her duty as a huntress and to do what she should do as a huntress in a very, like, selfless act, right? Because she's in the middle of running away from her own problems, but even during that, she's basically saying that she can help someone else during this time, right? And then, you know, the kidnapping stuff happens, and Weiss formulates a plan for escape, right? So Weiss formulates a pretty, like, crafty plan. Like, she's getting a little knight to, I guess, dig out for her, like, to do the bars and stuff, and then she would just do this little by little so they wouldn't notice, and then sneakily escape, right? But obviously Yang comes and that changes everything. And so the last piece of characterization that I really want to talk about in terms of, like, character development is that, you know, when Weiss goes to talk to Yang, Yang thinks that it's RWBY, but really it's Weiss, and Weiss shares all of these personal details, sort of her life with Yang, and that's kind of how Yang won Blake over, so to speak, is that, to go to the dance, I mean, is that Yang kind of shared a personal story to get her to sort of relate to what was happening to them. So Weiss talks about her mom and her parents and all that, and how, you know, Team RWBY is her real family and everything. Just like how Yang talks about her mom and, like, searching for her mom for such a long time that it put everybody in danger and that Blake needs a break, all of that sort of stuff, right? So you get the same kind of vibe when you think about it like that. And so that's kind of like where most of this ends, and so I just kind of want to talk about Weiss's death, because I think this is, I don't want to say it's the end of her character development, but it's an end of an arc for her. And, like, if you guys watch, I guess, like, arc anime, you'll know that the arc isn't the end of, you know, isn't the end of the show. It's just the end of almost like a little saga. You know what I mean? It's the end of a little piece. And so, I don't know, like, a better way to, like, phrase this, I guess, but, like, the Emerald Forest was an arc in of itself. Mm-hmm. It was very short because of RWBY's time, but it was an arc, right? And so for Weiss, this has been her arc, and so I think that Weiss dying and being brought back to life is really powerful in terms of both her character inspiration, but also just in terms of her arc, right? Because to me, I think her dying there for a minute, because, you know, Ren says that she's, like, hardly breathing, right? She's on the brink of death. I think that it's... How do I explain this? I think that it's really symbolic that the old Weiss has died and the new Weiss is brought back better. And we see that in this episode when she summons the Lancer, that John revives her, and she's almost even stronger than before in a sense. Like, she has this giant queen bee behind her. There's all this... I don't want to say ice, but there's, like, an icy wind effect swirling around her. Mm-hmm. When she does that, like, you see that she is, like, all-powerful all of a sudden. And so to kind of relate this back, I feel like that this is kind of like how Snow White ends, right? that Snow White wakes up and they live happily ever after. The queen is defeated, right? And so I feel like that is kind of what we're going for here, is more that RWBY, or that, like, for RWBY and Weiss and all of that, they're kind of, especially for Weiss, but with all of Team RWBY, they're turning over a new chapter, but with Weiss, you can really see that. I guess that Weiss, again, is like, has died and is coming back to life, with the evil queen defeated. Obviously, Jacques is still out there. He's not dead, but for all intents and purposes, he cannot hurt her anymore. He has been defeated, and even on a personal level, like, Weiss's own evil queen, if you want to call it that, is gone. Like, that has been defeated, if that makes sense. And that's kind of what I want to talk about in terms of her arc. It's almost like, if you guys have watched Once Upon a Time, basically the evil queen in there's another Snow White, so it's not that the evil queen becomes Snow White or anything, but the evil queen goes on this giant redemption arc, and so I feel like that's kind of like Weiss, that she started out, yeah, she's based off of Snow White, but she started out more the evil queen than anything, but then soon developed into more of a Snow White, that she defeated her own evil, you know what I mean? And I feel like all the girls are getting to do that. Like, we talked about this before, but RWBY is based off of the wolf, RWBY is based off of the wolf and Little Red, Yang is based off of Goldilocks and the bears, right? Blake is based off of Bella and the Beast, so they're all sort of fighting their inner villain, right? And I think that for Weiss, at least in Path of Isolation, you kind of, like, yes, Jacques and them are sort of putting their thoughts on her, but there are also thoughts that are coming from inside of herself that are sort of consuming her, and she has to get out of that. So she really is, I think, defeating her own monsters, and that's what I think that her death, like her brief death, if you want to call it that, her death and sort of rise back up, I think that's what it's really supposed to symbolize here. That it's the end to her arc, not necessarily the end to her growth, but it's more like, again, like that evil queen has been defeated. It's now, like, sort of a healthier mix between the two, because obviously she still has that personality about her, with the, like, oh, that's so annoying, right? Like, when John tells her that, like, she went down or whatever. But you kind of also see she's not gonna let the thoughts of other people kind of consume her, anymore. Like, you sometimes are your worst enemy. It doesn't matter what other people tell you. Like, sometimes you are the one that kind of hurts yourself the most in the end. Because I think that with Weiss is that, like, I was thinking about this earlier, but, like, we always say that, like, words won't affect us if, like, we don't let them, right? But people are talking about that when they're talking about, like, negative words, right? But then I think that we also forget, if it's that easy to do it with negative words, it's also just as easy to do it with positive ones, too. And so I feel like for Weiss, it's taken her a long time to kind of let those positive words back in, because it's been her own thoughts, as we see in the songs, that are really kind of driving her crazy, for lack of a better word. So Hunter, I've talked a lot.
I agree with you. You sort of summarized. There was another word that starts with S and has an M with it that was on my mind. Bion smegma in that moment. But yes, no, I agree with you. I have nothing really else to add.
Because I think this is, like, because I know that, like, it seems, like, really, like, basic just to explain, like, how far our character has come and everything, and you guys may be like, well, I knew this already, why did you do a video? But I think that it is, like, it's on a, like, a much deeper level than her getting character development. It's, like, this giant, like, change for her.
Do you feel as though,
really
like,
meaningful.
her, like, getting a lance to the chest, and if they, do you think they would do, like, the PTSD route that they've sort of similarly done with Yang? Or do you feel like that would be exhausting at that point?
Not that she doesn't remember it, but she asked John what happened, so I don't think she remembers. Right?
That's possible. Okay.
Because sometimes, like, when you go through an event like that, you just don't, sometimes you just don't remember.
A lot of blood loss, I don't know,
like,
but...
And I think that because she kind of knocked out so fast before she could tell what was going on, like, this is obviously a different thing, but if you guys have ever gotten a concussion, like, I've gotten concussions and then we've gone to the doctor and I don't remember how I got them, funnily enough, you know what I mean? That's kind of what it means to hit your head sometimes, right? And so I think that for Weiss, I don't think she's gonna do the PTSD route because she doesn't remember what happened. You know what I mean? Just, like, obviously Yang would because, she has lasting effects from it, first of all, and then she was still awake. Like, her injury wasn't, not to say her injury wasn't that bad, but her injury wasn't so bad that she, like, would have, like, passed out cold, right? Or that almost died, let's say. You know what I mean? And so, I feel like that, no, I don't think they're gonna do a PTSD route with her, just for the fact that she doesn't seem to remember what happened. Right? And so, all John told her was she took a pretty bad hit. That's not something to get sort of traumatic over necessarily.
I mean, all Yang had was a pretty bad hit.
Well, no, because I think that,
say it like
when we're talking about Yang's trauma, though, I think most of the trauma from Yang comes from the fact that it's not about her arm. It's about, like, Adam and Blake. Like, I feel like you understand what I mean.
That's true as well.
Because, like,
and she is not connected to the rest.
Yeah, like, not that this isn't a good example, but I got into a car accident a while ago, and I'm not afraid of cars now because I got a bad injury. I'm afraid of being in them.
But you certainly don't have your license.
Like, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not afraid because I got hurt. I'm afraid because of the experience that was behind it. Like, who was driving it? What were the circumstances? Like, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, that has affected me more than anything. It wasn't that I got hurt really bad and that's, like, all I can think about or anything. You know what I mean? So, I think for Yang, it's really, what was really traumatic for her was, like, Blake leaving and kind of how Adam just, like, zoomed into their life for a minute and then, like, messed everything up all of a sudden, right? You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so, not to say that, like, if you get hurt, like, you can't get trauma, but I'm saying that I think Yang's trauma comes from a place of just, like, heartbreak to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
Of, like,
so
losing Blake more so than the injury, right?
I see.
Because obviously, yeah, that's pretty scary, but we see that in Remnant. Limbs aren't that hard to replace. Like, you can replace Yang's arm, but you'll never be able to help her get over what Blake did to her.
The real amputations were in her heart.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know that sounds cheesy, but that's what I mean. Anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed this, like, look at Weiss's arc. I'm sure she'll get more development to come, but I just kind of wanted, to talk about this, I guess. Like, I really wanted to go over her arc and how much, like, how the symbolism behind it and all that stuff. So, I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Remember, Discord, Patreon, all that fun stuff, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.